Hey there, it's Steve Goldberg, and this is a hopefully pretty quick video of just to show you a few things of the latest version of a better camera, which is my plugin. And this is version 1.7 release candidate 2. It's going to be coming out anytime, I think, in the first week of March. And I am excited to share it with everyone. We're pretty close to being done with this version. I've had a bunch of betas. This is actually the 11th beta if you're counting, but I think this is the last one, and basically then we're going to be ready to launch. One of the coolest things I want to share is I'm going to open the tracking list window. Actually, before I do, just real quick, in the status bar, which you can turn on pretty easily in ABC, you can actually tell we're currently tracking this citation, which came with X-Plane. It's my current user plane. But we can change to track any of the other AI aircraft that I've started through the flight configuration dialog. I've got these 7 AI aircraft that are up and running, but I've also installed a whole bunch of other aircraft through other plugins, and I actually have all of these active at the same time. But instead of showing them to you through this menu, you can do it here. I'm going to open the tracking list window, which you can also do from the plugin menu right here. There are only 2 windows in ABC, the settings window and the tracking list window. You can right drag to move the window around. You can resize windows. Whoops, I didn't grab it right. There you go. You can actually change the density by hovering over this button and scrolling. Or if you don't like that, you can just click on the button and you get a normal selection list, or you can scroll while inside it, whatever suits your usability needs. I'm currently running in ultra mode, which lets me pack as much as I can into the least amount of screen real estate, but you can actually use less screen real estate by opening this thing and zooming the font size to be smaller, all the way down to 75%. You can also change the opacity, and if I make this a little bit bigger, actually I don't need to. Yeah, that's as big as it needs to be for this. We can reset it to 100% in one click. So it's back to the way it was, and we can, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. We'll leave it at ultra. We can zoom it all the way up to 125%. Now this is without doing the UI zoom. Actually, this is already UI zoomed to 150% right now. So this is on top of that. It's just the text zoom built into ABC. It's not some X-Plane thing. You notice as I made things bigger that to keep everything fitting, ABC starts abbreviating things. But if you make the window wider, they get displayed in their full glory again. And I'm going to go into that in a second. I just wanted to show you this first. So we go back to 100%. There's actually 4 columns, actually 5 columns. There's another column that's collapsed into this. So right now, if we hit this, it breaks that out. And so now there's actually a separate status field, a status column, as opposed to just the altitude. But like, for example, on ground parked gets collapsed into at gate. And that just lets you make it a little bit narrower so you can get all the same information. And descend turns into this little arrow type of thing. You can also single left drag from here. And you can turn a window into a popped out OS window. I'm on a Mac, so that's a Mac window. This little thing will resize the windows. So let's go over here to, let's say, live traffic. There's only 5-6 targets. So if I do this, it'll resize the window. It's not perfect because we scaled the density, but when you have the default density, it works perfectly. Oh yeah, and you can also change the font to be between monospaced and normal, but I actually find it harder to read the normal font. I like the monospaced font. So I think that's the default. And if you want, you can go into settings and add the scroll bar here. It does scroll, but there's no scroll bar normally. So like right now, we can scroll just to get the last couple items, or we can hit the up arrow to grow the window to be the size that it needs to be to fit all the targets. You can't sort the columns. In fact, the column headers instead are used to change settings. So for instance, flight level is in feet. If you click it, it turns flight level into meters, which is going away over time. But distance in nautical miles, you can switch to kilometers. And that switches it throughout ABC, not just there. So there's lateral distance and then there's altitude. Those are separate. So you can always have altitude in feet, but you can switch to kilometers if you want for distances. XPilot, we just lost that one target that we had, so there's no targets currently available in XPilot, unfortunately. But I'm actually not near a big airport. I am, but I'm not that close. I'm near Minneapolis, but I'm in a small suburb. But I have Traffic Global on, and I have Live Traffic on, and I have Xdrop, which is a payware plugin that lets you put really arbitrary objects. You can have them fall from the sky. I just have them set up right now to just fall around the airport. You can drop them out of airplanes or out of the user plane. There's a whole lot to this plugin, so I don't want to downplay it, but it's just something other than aircraft, just to show you that ABC can track anything as long as it's got the API that I need. And you can do that in TCAS, but TCAS, as you may notice, is not in use right now. So none of these plugins controls TCAS. I could actually ask Traffic Global to take over TCAS or Live Traffic, but instead I've just got these AI aircraft, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that ABC can do really anything X-Plane can do and then some. So here, if we close that window, right, we can actually do things like the equivalent. These are things that you can't do in, let me do this right here, turn off auto zoom real quick. So this is, here I'm zooming in manually. This is still spot. It's the exact same thing. I've just reverse engineered their algorithm. So this happens to be a, what's it called? Traffic Global aircraft, but you can do it with any aircraft. We can actually, one cool thing you can do, so we're still in still spot mode. I can turn on auto zoom, which is a feature that X-Plane doesn't have. So it actually zooms out as the aircraft gets closer to the camera, which is fixed, and then it zooms in as it gets further away. Same thing for another mode, which is very similar, called linear spot. And you can get all the camera views here. And in linear spot, the camera's moving with the aircraft. If we turn off auto zoom for a second, you can actually move the camera, which you can't do in X-Plane. So ABC is like far superior. Oh, I forgot to mention the horrible performance you're seeing where everything's really, really running slow. That's half of that delay is due to my video recording on the Mac. It's just, I cannot get it to go faster. Whenever I do video recording, I find myself, even though I'm recording at a lower quality than my monitor has, I still can't get it to be any more efficient. So X-Plane suffers quite a lot when I'm recording, unfortunately. So try to ignore that. The status bar, by the way, has things like the nearest airport to the camera and this pop-up menu I showed you of other targets that you can pop out of that and see the other tracking lists that you saw. And you noticed I didn't say it, but it should be obvious that these tracking lists are one tab per plugin that ABC knows about. And if you were using TCAS, it would take over these AI slots here, and they would all be living in this X-Plane menu. So this would change from user plus AI to user plus TCAS. And the name of the traffic plugin controlling TCAS would show up here. I'm not going to do it yet. I'll do it in just a minute. But first, the thing that you might not have noticed, and I didn't actually finish the demo of all the different camera views, but hopefully you get the idea. But one thing that I'm doing is I'm actually culling. You may have seen that when I opened settings the first time. I had typed the query culling here. And let's do toggle all closed and turn expert off. Okay, so these are the only settings that matter for culling. Some of these are duplicates, but because I turned off expert, you won't see the duplicates. So basically, there's two systems today that you can define, three systems that I can define culling for. Culling means asking ABC to not show targets and just completely purge them from ABC's catalog of available targets based on their distance from the user aircraft. So and they're off by default. So actually they're on for traffic global, but they're off by default for the for the live traffic source. And the reason that they're different is because traffic global tends to like to have targets really far away. And it's just very painful when the graphics of the simulator aren't very good that far away. So by default, ABC actually is configured to cull at 77 nautical miles. I should have written nautical miles here. So that's, I think I did it right. Anyway, so that's 125 kilometers from the user aircraft. That's the default. I've actually made it much less. If I raise it back to 77 nautical miles, you see the traffic global tab just got much more populous. And in fact, I could just turn culling off altogether. And you can see it'll go up in a second. Well, it only went up a little bit because there aren't that many aircraft in this area anyway. So in this case, culling off is fine. That's for traffic global. And then if we go down here to this one that's just traffic, I got to figure out how to disambiguate these better. But traffic means all other traffic. Currently, the only other traffic I support for culling is live traffic. I don't cull XPilot. Oh, by the way, here's one of our XPilot aircraft that's actually flying. So this is a real person flying in VATSIM, and we're watching them right now, which is really cool. Well, here's his flight number, type of aircraft, etc. And you can actually, they're interchangeable. So I can say, find the next nearest aircraft, and ABC will animate moving the camera to the nearest aircraft to that aircraft of the non-culled aircraft, of course. There's no live traffic culled aircraft, but you can see here, there's not much scenery here just to show you. So let's get the live traffic ones. I mean, sorry, there were no traffic global culled aircraft. I misspoke. So now let's turn up the amount of traffic we get from the rest of it, which is currently only live traffic. So we'll put it to its default of 77 nautical miles. Now it is not, actually it is, no, it's off by default, right? So live traffic doesn't filter by distance in ABC by default. And that's because you can also filter by distance in live traffic. The difference is live traffic filters by distance from the camera. ABC filters by distance from the user plane, which has to do with scenery and whatnot. So you'll see now we've gotten that big airport in Minneapolis in scope. And again, the scenery is terrible here, but just looking at the totals here, you see we have our 8 aircraft that are in AI, the 1 XPilot aircraft, all 31 of the available traffic global aircraft, and then only 60 of the probably 200 live traffic aircraft that are available because they're within the radius of 77 nautical miles. I think it was nautical miles of the user aircraft. And then finally, XDrop, this one that only drops a few targets because I've set it up that way. Around the airport, there's only a few. But they're all active at the same time, and ABC can not only track them at the same time, but it can actually give alerts when they're taking off and landing. And so you don't have to sit there and watch them. You can just wait for an alert to pop up. And you notice there's a lot of takeoffs. This is just takeoffs. I haven't even activated landings yet. So let's go to let's add landings into it. Now, of course, you sitting here hitting this over and over again for landings and takeoffs is kind of a pain. So what I do instead is I have this awesome lean back mode, which you can get here, screensaver mode, or you can get it here in the status bar. And what screensaver will do by default, you can disable this in settings, but screensaver by default will track random aircraft in your tracking lists until there's a takeoff or landing alert, and it'll automatically accept that. And you can have it suppress the alert as well. So you can configure everything in ABC. So let's turn auto zoom back on, because that was actually manual zoom. So that's why everything was too close for a second there. So this is a random live traffic aircraft. And now this is a this is a built-in aircraft, an AI aircraft. And you can move the camera within certain limits. The problem is that ABC wants to auto advance to the next target when you get far enough away from this. So if you turn the camera too quickly, it might think, oh, it's already passed, and it'll go ahead and move to the next target. But right now it's just randomly going through them. But as soon as a new takeoff or landing occurs, it'll abort whatever it's doing like it just did and go to a taking off aircraft. And it won't interrupt itself for another taking off aircraft or landing aircraft until this one is no longer in takeoff phase. However, that way you get to watch it take off, which is perfect. Isn't that amazing? If only the scenery were better, it would be perfect. But it's not, because of the distance from the user aircraft. But once this is done, then it's open to taking other alerts, but there weren't any. So if two alerts came in a row, it would only let you watch one, and then the other one would appear as an alert, and then you could choose to click it if you wanted to, like right here. So there's a landing aircraft, but this one's still taking off. So let's just wait. We got till the timer runs out. All right, let's try it. It turns out that's like a false, because this one's kind of funny. So I don't know. This one, I don't know. The data for this is coming from a third party, and I don't know that I believe that data very well either. So here's two in a row again. So this one's taking off, and I missed the other one. It doesn't just go away when it times out. It also goes away when the phase is no longer valid. So it's already landed, or it's already finished taking off. And then you can always transition straight out of screensaver into whatever camera mode you want. So we're in ride-along mode right here. And then you can also have keyboard shortcuts to, instead of clicking them on the screen, to go to the active alerts. There's a runway spot, which doesn't always get you what you want. There's that still spot, or linear spot or still spot. And if we turn off auto zoom, it automatically zooms all the way out. Unfortunately, though, with the lack of scenery, it's kind of frustrating. Let's switch to the other side of it. It's got more shadow on that side. So you can modify the camera position in real time with anything in ABC. And then you can stop, and you can actually have it continue. Oh, whoops, I hit the wrong keyboard shortcut. So you can actually have it, let's turn off auto zoom for a second here. So you can stop it. So that means you're not actually stopping, you're moving the camera faster. The camera's moving with the target perfectly, because we're in ride-along view. And then we can go back to linear spot and then stop it again. We can just toggle between these two views, and ABC preserves the view perfectly. In fact, I can reset the view for the other view. Sorry, I meant to do this one. Reset this view. And then I can do drop spot, which drops the camera without having the camera move at all. So it'll appear that we'll have 3 speeds here. There's, with the aircraft, slightly faster or slightly slower than the aircraft, and then completely stopped. And we can go between them anytime we want. It's pretty nice. There's also tower view and, all the other, there's even a way to view from one aircraft to the other. And again, it doesn't matter which aircraft, which plugin is providing the aircraft. ABC can handle all of them. Okay, so now it's time to show you TCAS. So let's turn back on this. I'm going to go back to, here, let's view that one. We can also turn off because they do get old. Since there's so much traffic, usually coming from live traffic / real traffic, that it's better to just give that up. But you can still see them and go to them, by clicking them directly. And by the way, when we're in the X-Plane tab, that means these aircraft can be seen by X-Plane's camera. So we can actually hit Shift 4, for example, and now we're in X-Plane's circle camera. And one of the cool things about that is there's actually interior views. It doesn't matter whether we're in X-Plane's camera or ABC's camera. If I put the camera inside it, and then I can say, we hit a keyboard shortcut here. It's actually in the menu there too, called Tether to Interior. And now we've just captured an interior view from an exterior view. You can actually hit Shift 9 at this point, and we're in the cockpit of this 737, which is a really cool feature X-Plane provides, but most people don't know about it because they don't realize how to change targets in X-Plane. And then the ability to capture a view. You can also capture the other direction. ABC can capture any view. So I just turned this into a ride-along view from a cockpit or an interior view. So in fact, if we go back to this, we can navigate arbitrarily around all the different aircraft that are flying around in the X-Plane tab. And these aircraft, like I said, the X-Plane camera can see, so I'll do Shift 8 this time. So we're doing a chase. And ABC is syncing the targets between the two. So if I hit next in X-Plane to go to the next target, and then I just do anything in ABC, like I say, skip right, it skips right around the correct aircraft because the aircraft targets are synced. Turns out for each one of these, well, X-Pilot's kind of out of it because it doesn't have its own camera, but Traffic Global has its own camera, Live Traffic has its own camera, and XDrop has its own camera, and so does X-Plane. And so because of that, ABC can hand off back and forth between all of them. So if you're in Traffic Global and you pick a target, Traffic Global thinks that's the focus. So in all of its UI, anywhere that there's a camera-related function or an aircraft-related function, you've just selected it by virtue of clicking it in ABC. And similarly, if you're in that function, like the radar and world traffic, it works the same way too. If you pick a new target out of the radar, that'll become the ABC target as well. It may not switch to it. It depends on what's going on. It won't switch the camera view to it, but it'll switch the target to it. And that means that then when you go to capture a view, I no longer have all my keyboard shortcuts memorized for all these different cameras, but I could demo it. I made a full video about this for Traffic Global, and I think I probably also did it for Live Traffic at some point, although that's changed a little bit. But anyway, going back to the X-Plane one, if these were TCAS, you couldn't do the interior views, but since they're not, they're AI planes, you can actually you can go inside, but they're not all rendered. Some of them are, but they're really low quality, but you still can't do this part, which is the capture internal view. Boom. I just captured the interior view. And this is now the X-Plane interior camera in the cockpit of this AI aircraft. And we're getting to watch it. And they actually update some of these controls and dials and stuff in some of the planes. I think this one's up to date. Yeah. You can actually see things happening. It's pretty cool. It's really nice, actually. And then as I showed before, you can go capture back to the current view. I'm in chase view now, so I captured a chase view camera view in ABC from an interior view, which can get wonky because the controls are different for the exterior cameras as far as how they move, I mean. And then you notice how we can't see the scenery. So I'm going to make it so you can see the scenery. Ready? Boom. Oh, the camera reset, but everything else is the same. All right, ready? Here comes the scenery. Have you ever seen such a thing? ABC does this. This is called scout mode. ABC can essentially, I don't know if trick's the right word, but cajole X-plane into rendering the entire scenery wherever the camera is instead of where the user plane is. Well, sort of, I'm lying. It does this by moving the user plane to where the camera is. There, it just finished loading. It's still going to load some stuff, but it's loaded most things. Yeah, there's the rest of the airport. That message you saw was about loading the tiles themselves, because there's actually a bunch of tiles that it has to load when you move around. So let's do this. We get to watch it from straight on down the runway. Looks like it might be going around. I wonder why. Oh, it's because I put the user plane there. I forgot about that. So the user plane is actually now right behind the camera. And so because I put the user plane, I put the camera on the runway, that means the user plane was on the runway too. So that's a little bit confusing. So that's why he didn't end up landing, because he thinks that's an obstacle. Pretty funny. Anyway, but having the user plane on, I'm in observer mode. If I weren't in observer mode, the fact that I'm still logged into XPilot would be a serious problem, because it would look like I was flying right now. But let me go log out of XPilot. And the cool thing is, ABC just removes it from the list. And if I log back into XPilot, it just comes back into the list. So it's dynamic. If you stop all traffic in live traffic, it'll just disappear as well. So it's pretty dynamic and easy to deal with stuff in ABC. And then what I'm gonna do is cancel scout mode, because the user plane really doesn't want to be here. It wants to be back where it was. Now, the whole time I've had the user plane here, it's been locked. It's been frozen. So it's not, there's no physics being applied to it. The flight model isn't getting run for it. It's just here just for the purpose of giving us the camera. So we can't go inside it. We can't look at it. But, well, we can look at it if I switch to slew view. So I'll move back away from this target. You can actually go to free camera view. That might be easier. And then I'll just switch on slew. And there's the user plane. Because it was parked, we can actually change its heading and everything. If it was moving, we wouldn't be able to do that. And we could drop it right here, which would put it on the ground because it was parked on the ground. We don't want to put it there. We can actually put it ourselves on the ground and look exactly where it's going to go. Right? We can actually decide where we want to put it, what heading, everything. Again, when it was on the ground. If it was in the air, we can't do this. And then if we dropped it here, we'd have to use the command, the slew or scout command. They're the same, called drop here. Or we could get rid of the aircraft going back to scout mode. It just hides it behind the camera. And as we keep moving around, we're moving the user plane, but we're also updating the view as we go. And we can also go back to tracking the last target. And then what I'm going to do is cancel scout view while tracking this target. It might reset this target because the target is trying to be within a certain distance of the user plane. So once I move the user plane, the target may respawn. So we'll see what happens. Here, let's do this. Well, we'll go back out a little bit. All right, ready? So I'm going to cancel scout mode. Yeah, it respawned. I knew it would. Well, maybe it didn't respawn, but it reset the aircraft's positioning. So that's it's because everything changed. So ABC detected that it was some kind of respawn. It really wasn't. It was just relative to the user plane. I can probably fix that. But anyway, so you see here all the stuff behind the camera is now at a crappy low quality again. And there are some buildings and 3D models that were loaded already, actually, because we are getting closer to the user plane's original location. But the way to get to the user plane, we could do this. We could go to still spot and then auto zoom off and then hit the user plane button. And now you can see where the user plane is. We can go to circle view and zoom in because we're aimed directly at the user plane. So you can kind of see where the user plane is. And then with animation on, we can just say reset view and go straight to the user plane. And the last demo is TCAS. So we're going to displace all of these AI aircraft with either traffic global or live traffic. Let's do traffic global. All you do is turn on TCAS. It sends the message to traffic global to take over TCAS. And now traffic global is in TCAS. I'm actually going to turn it off and do it again. Well, let's go to one of these targets first, and then I'll show you. So here's an aircraft, right? And then what I'm going to do here, let's ride along with that puppy. And then what I'm going to do is switch it off. So we're going to go back. So right now we're in aircraft number 5 in TCAS, and I'll say traffic global TCAS off. And it lost it because that's what happens, unfortunately. I was able to rebind it, but that's a bug. With live traffic, that bug doesn't happen. Here, I'll do it with live traffic just to show you a little better experience. We'll go to this moving aircraft here. Let's do it again. It's just, I just rewrote some back-end code, so it broke one thing, but it's easy enough to go back to the last target in ABC. So let's turn TCAS on here. So now live traffic will take over TCAS. Again, displacing all those AI aircraft. But notice we didn't lose the aircraft or even the camera view. So we're still looking at this aircraft, but it got renamed to number 2 and moved to this X-plane tab. And over here in live traffic, the ones that you see here, these are mostly aircraft that are at the gate or taxiing on the ground, and those are excluded in my setup from being put into TCAS. So that's why they're excluded. If we were culling a large amount, some of those might also be culled aircraft that they don't even show up anywhere. But in this case, we just haven't filled up everything because a lot of these aircraft are gate parked or whatever. All right, and then I'm going to cancel TCAS. You can do it here. You can do it in the menu of the plugin. So here it is, TCAS off. And it did reset the camera that time. It really varies. Sometimes it doesn't. But anyway, we still stayed targeting the correct aircraft because we're tracking the mode SID, not a number like number 3 or whatever we were tracking. All right, that's it. So TCAS works great, and there's a lot more to say about it, but I'll stop there. Hopefully that made a lot of sense. There's a lot of features I demoed. There's a lot more that I didn't demo, so please check it out at your leisure. All right, thanks very much. See you guys later.